On a quiet street in Taiwan, there was a barbershop that stayed open late into the night, welcoming customers even after nearby stores had already closed. But in just one night, that cheerful little place became the scene of a murder that sent shockwaves through the entire neighborhood. To fully understand what happened inside this barbershop, we must look back at a cultural element once deeply rooted in Taiwan's urban life: traditional barbershops. These shops were commonly found in local neighborhoods and public markets, run by experienced barbers working independently. They were typically small, furnished with a single worn-out barber chair and a few simple tools. Closely tied to the surrounding community, these old-style barbershops mainly served familiar neighbors. Customers didn't just come for a haircut, they came to chat, to talk about family matters, or to share everyday struggles. The haircuts might not have followed the latest trends, but they were affordable, and the service was always warm and welcoming. This simple, personal model became a lasting memory for generations of Taiwanese. But as society changed, a new wave of modern salons began replacing these nostalgic spots. Out went the classic chairs and heartfelt conversations, and came sleek salon chains with stylish interiors and standardized services. Among them stood a small but eye-catching shop on the corner called Gentle Elegance Barbershop. Unlike most local barbers, the woman behind Gentle Elegance Barbershop was an immigrant from mainland China. With her soft demeanor, free-spirited outfits, and open smile, she quickly won over a male clientele. But one late night, everything came to a sudden and tragic end, with her lifeless body found inside the shop under mysterious circumstances. To trace the events that led to this tragedy, we have to rewind to the year 2013, when the murder took place in Xinbei City, Taiwan. Officially known as New Taipei City, it's the most populous municipality in Taiwan, encircling the capital Taipei. The city is a blend of tall apartment complexes, upscale shopping centers, narrow alleyways, traditional wet markets, and residential homes built closely together. It was in this very environment that, one morning in early October, the owner of a nearby leather shoe shop in Xinzhuang district started his usual routine, taking inventory and cleaning up before opening for the day. But when he arrived, something felt off. The barbershop next door, Gentle Elegance, was unusually quiet. Ruiqin, the owner, typically opened early like him, but that day, she was nowhere to be seen. A string of odd details raised his suspicion. The shared kitchen between the two shops was tightly locked from the inside. The surroundings were eerily silent. Even stranger, the rolling shutter at the front of the barbershop was only halfway down, as if someone had left in a hurry or didn't have time to close it all the way. Concerned, the man walked over and called out to Ruiqin, hoping to get her attention and ask her to unlock the kitchen. As he stepped into the front area of the barbershop, everything seemed normal: shampoo station in place, barber tools neatly arranged. But the moment he entered the small back room, he was met with a horrifying sight. Lying motionless before him was the body of Ruiqin, 41 years old, surrounded by a large pool of blood. The shoe store owner was stunned and horrified. With trembling hands, he dialed the police. Officers from the Xinzhuang district in New Taipei City received the emergency call around 9 a.m. on October 26th and immediately rushed to the scene with sirens blaring. Within minutes, law enforcement arrived at Gentle Elegance Barbershop. As they rolled up the metal shutter, a strong metallic scent of fresh blood hit them, causing even the most seasoned officers to hold their breath. Ruiqin's body was still on the floor of her shop, dressed in a low-cut purple dress, now soaked in bright red blood. Deep cuts and visible bruises were present all over her body. When the forensics team began the autopsy, several disturbing details emerged. On the victim's head, they found 24 crescent-shaped wounds, arranged in a bizarre and unexplained pattern, unlike any injury typically caused by a knife or sharp object. In addition, clear signs of strangulation and a broken fingernail suggested that she had struggled desperately before succumbing. Purplish blotches had also begun to appear on the body, helping forensic specialists estimate the time of death between 11 p.m. and 1 a.m., the exact window when the barbershop was usually at its busiest. Even more troubling, the scene showed signs of deliberate tampering. The bed was clearly disturbed, and a wall-mounted air conditioning unit had been placed in an odd location. It had been removed from the window, but no one could say for sure whether the suspect left it behind while fleeing or if it had been used as a weapon in the attack. Investigators, following the positioning of the air conditioner and the disarray in the room, quickly found fingerprints on the unit's surface, as well as a partial footprint on the bedsheet. These traces became the first tangible clues that the killer had physically been at the scene. From there, police developed two possible scenarios: a botched robbery that turned deadly, or a calculated act of personal revenge. As officers delved into Ruiqin Yu's social connections, they discovered that the barbershop owner from Shenyang had a much more complicated life than her appearance suggested. In the old Xinzhuang neighborhood, gossip swirled about Ruiqin as a woman who always drew attention. At 41, she often wore above-the-knee skirts, sharp-pointed high heels, and carried herself with a striking presence that turned heads wherever she went. But it wasn't just her looks that raised eyebrows. Her past surprised many. 6 years earlier, this single mother from China had married a Taiwanese man 22 years her senior, through the arrangement of a marriage brokerage service. Following their marriage, Ruiqin and her husband led largely separate lives. He worked as a janitor at a barbershop in Taipei, earning a modest income and rarely spending time with his wife. Meanwhile, Ruiqin had moved alone to Xinzhuang 2 years prior and invested all her savings into opening the Gentle Elegance barbershop. Her daughter remained in China, relying on the money Ruiqin sent monthly to cover her university tuition. Over time, the barbershop began attracting attention from locals. Although newly opened, Gentle Elegance quickly became a topic of conversation in the neighborhood. During the day, it operated like any regular hair salon, but at night, it offered a 50-minute massage service for $24, drawing in male clients who worked late hours or middle-aged men living nearby. As a result, Ruiqin Yu's image became familiar around the Xinzhuang market. She often wore form-fitting outfits that accentuated her figure while shopping and made sure to appear during peak hours when foot traffic was heavy, turning heads each time she walked by. This intentional presence didn't go unnoticed. Housewives living across the street and vendors in the nearby market often viewed her with a mix of jealousy and resentment. In contrast, many men in the neighborhood made regular visits to her shop under the pretense of getting haircuts, leading the shop to stay open well into the night. However, this previously lively atmosphere quickly shifted after Ruiqin's murder. When her 63-year-old husband arrived at the crime scene, his reaction immediately raised red flags. Rather than breaking down in grief over his wife's brutal death, he remained oddly calm and composed. Instead of rushing to identify her body, he spent time checking through every personal item in the home: 2 laptops, a cell phone, a watch, the remote for the electric shutter, and a wallet, all of which he carefully inventoried out loud. To the seasoned officers on site, this strange behavior seemed less like shock and more like he was verifying whether any key evidence had been seized by police. The suspicion only deepened as the investigation progressed. During questioning, the husband gave vague and contradictory answers. He repeatedly emphasized that their relationship was normal, yet dodged direct questions about specific marital conflicts. When asked about their personal connection, he paused before stating that although they were legally married, they no longer lived together. He said he only visited the shop occasionally, staying for a night or two before leaving. Pressed further about their daily life and level of intimacy, he claimed they were financially independent and did not interfere in each other's private affairs. But the most concerning detail came when police asked where he was the night of the murder. As someone who worked as a cleaning staff member at a barbershop in Taipei, he should have been able to provide a clear alibi. Instead, he struggled to give a direct answer or any specifics about his whereabouts that night. However, the forensic results soon took the investigation in a different direction. The fingerprints found on the air conditioning unit at the crime scene did not match Ruiqin Yu's husband, temporarily removing him from the list of primary suspects. Moreover, phone records showed that at the time of the murder, he had been working a night shift at a barbershop in Taipei, a fact that was later confirmed by his co-workers. Additionally, a review of his financial activity revealed nothing suspicious. There were no recent insurance policies taken out in his wife's name, nor any sudden, unexplained inflow of money. Based on this, police reduced their level of suspicion toward the husband, but began exploring a new line of investigation. They theorized the killer was likely someone familiar with the layout of Gentle Elegance barbershop, and close enough to Ruiqin for her to open the door late at night without hesitation. Still, a major obstacle arose when reviewing nearby surveillance footage. On the very night of the murder, a large truck had been illegally parked in front of the security camera, completely blocking its view of the shop. In the video footage, only a few shadowy figures could be seen moving, none with clear or identifiable features. With no helpful leads from the security footage, investigators were forced to temporarily abandon the theory that the motive was theft. After reassessing the evidence, the team made a strategic decision to pivot the investigation toward a potential crime of passion. This new direction was based on two key observations. First, Ruiqin's line of work brought her into contact primarily with male clients. Second, although the crime scene showed some signs of theft, multiple indicators suggested it may have been staged by the killer to mislead investigators. Pursuing this theory, the task force began systematically reviewing Ruiqin's customer base, hoping to identify a suspicious individual. Since her cell phone had gone missing, detectives focused on the call history from the shop's landline. On examining the logs for October 25th, one particular anomaly stood out. That evening, a single phone number had called the shop 3 times in quick succession. When police dialed it back, a man, referred to as Mr. A, answered. He claimed to be a regular client and explained that he had called multiple times while drunk, which had led to Ruiqin scolding him. Police looked further into his alibi and confirmed that he had indeed been drinking at a bar on the night of the murder. Surveillance footage from the bar, along with the bartender's testimony, corroborated his story and gave him a solid alibi. Meanwhile, the investigation took another turn when officers thoroughly searched Ruiqin's personal belongings. Hidden in a small, rarely used drawer, they discovered a sheet of paper filled with handwritten phone numbers. After cross-checking them, detectives confirmed that the list included contact information for Ruiqin's most frequent clients. Thanks to the recovered contact list, police were able to quickly narrow down individuals who may have been present around the time of the murder. After a thorough review, they identified just one customer, referred to as Mr. B, who had visited the barbershop on that day. When contacted by police, Mr. B appeared visibly nervous, gave evasive answers, and tried to decline cooperation by claiming he was vacationing with his family in Taoyuan. That response immediately raised red flags. Taoyuan isn't far from the crime scene, and more importantly, the international airport is only a short drive away. Investigators began to suspect that Mr. B might be planning to flee Taiwan. Acting on this suspicion, police dispatched an emergency unit to the resort where Mr. B was staying in Taoyuan. However, upon arriving and inspecting the scene, they discovered that he was, in fact, vacationing with his wife and children. There were no signs he was planning to leave Taiwan, nor any suspicious behavior. Inside the room, suitcases were packed with children's clothing and toys, confirming it was a genuine family trip that had been planned in advance. Booking records showed the reservation was made before the murder took place. More importantly, Mr. B's alibi was verified and completely solid. Surveillance footage also showed him leaving the barbershop before 8 p.m., while the time of death had been determined to be between 11 p.m. and 1 a.m. His family also confirmed that he drove straight home after leaving the shop. With all of this evidence, Mr. B was officially ruled out as a suspect, once again leaving the investigation at a dead end. Faced with this setback, detectives decided to re-examine the entire bank of surveillance footage. After extending the time window and analyzing every detail, they found a critical lead. Around 9 p.m. on October 25th, a suspicious figure could be seen pacing around the barbershop. At 10 p.m., this individual entered the shop and didn't exit until after midnight. This time frame perfectly matched the estimated window of the murder, opening up a new investigative direction. Continuing to analyze frame by frame, the team eventually uncovered a vital clue. Just after 9 p.m. on the night of the crime, A man wearing a jacket and carrying what appeared to be a laptop bag was seen emerging from the direction of the barbershop and walking away quickly. Notably, his behavior was extremely cautious. He kept glancing over his shoulder, clearly trying to avoid showing his face to the cameras. Instead of heading toward nearby public roads or transportation routes, he walked nearly half a mile along deserted back streets until he reached an area near number 58 Bade Road, where a motorbike was waiting for him. This particular detail immediately triggered concern among veteran investigators. If he were a local resident, there would have been no reason to park so far from the scene. Moreover, his deliberate choice to avoid populated areas strongly suggested a calculated attempt to evade detection and cover his tracks. By tracing the license plate of the motorbike, police quickly identified the registered owner as Mingguo He. On the morning of October 27th, the investigation team immediately visited the address listed on his household registration to verify his whereabouts, but what they encountered was completely unexpected. When the door opened, they were greeted by an elderly couple who identified themselves as Mingguo's parents. They claimed their son had been out of contact for over 5 years and had left no forwarding information. Throughout the conversation, they repeatedly insisted that Mingguo was a well-behaved man who had never broken the law, yet their shaky voices and avoidance of eye contact raised suspicion among investigators. Further inquiries revealed that Mingguo, now 38 years old, was divorced and living alone. He suffered from mild memory impairment and made a living by repairing household electronics. In addition to the motorbike, he also owned a small delivery truck. Even more unusual, in an era where smartphones are practically universal, Mingguo didn't use any phone number at all. In fact, the SIM card registered under his name had been deactivated a long time ago and had never been replaced. As police expanded their search, lead investigator Zixiang Lin happened to stop at a convenience store to buy a drink and spotted a man sitting outside reading a newspaper who closely resembled Mingguo. When approached, the man remained eerily calm and even agreed without hesitation to accompany police back to the station for questioning. During interrogation, the man confirmed he was indeed Mingguo. He calmly denied all accusations and provided a clear alibi. He admitted he had gone to Gentle Elegance barbershop on the night of October 25th, but said it was to help Ruiqin repair 2 laptops, as she had previously requested. According to Mingguo, Ruiqin had been visibly tense that evening after receiving 3 harassing phone calls from a drunken customer. She even asked him to answer one of the calls on her behalf. As for the laptops, Mingguo claimed he took them home for repair, but after hearing about Ruiqin's death, he panicked and didn't dare return them. Based on his statement, police searched Mingguo's residence and recovered the 2 laptops, along with Ruiqin's missing wristwatch. However, her phone was still unaccounted for. Further investigation confirmed that Mingguo operated a small repair shop and had a girlfriend who was a Buddhist freelancer. His financial records appeared stable with no signs of distress or irregularity. To extend the investigation, police brought Mingguo to the temple where his girlfriend was living. After a thorough search, no suspicious evidence was found. In the sacred setting, Mingguo even voluntarily knelt down and solemnly swore his innocence once again. However, a forensic analysis of biological traces found inside the casing of the air conditioning unit placed on the interrogation table told a different story. Fingerprint residues inside the unit matched Mingguo's prints exactly. This irrefutable scientific evidence caused the entire room to fall into silence. Faced with the results, Mingguo maintained his strange sense of composure. All he said was that Ruiqin had told him the AC unit wasn't working that night, so he had taken it apart to inspect it. His answer seemed simple, but only made the case more perplexing. What especially raised suspicions was Mingguo's eerily calm demeanor. Even as investigators increased the pressure, he showed no signs of stress, repeating only that he had nothing to do with Ruiqin's death. After a long stretch of silence, with both sides stuck at an impasse, Mingguo suddenly looked up and stared directly at the lead investigator with a sharp, unwavering gaze. He then said something unexpected. "If I really intended to kill Ruiqin, leaving my fingerprints on the device would make no sense at all." The statement caught the investigators off guard, and the more they thought about it, the more it made sense. If he were the real killer, leaving such obvious evidence behind would have been a rookie mistake. That moment marked a turning point. Investigators began to suspect that the fingerprints might not have been an oversight, but possibly planted as part of a calculated setup. Re-examining the entire case, the team decided to shift their approach. While a growing number of clues pointed toward Mingguo, there was still no definitive conclusion because something essential was missing. His life appeared stable, and there was no clear sign of conflict with the victim. This made it difficult to establish a convincing motive. So the team reopened the interrogation, this time focusing on every small detail in his previous statements, looking for overlooked inconsistencies. During the new session, police noticed something that had escaped attention earlier: 2 deep scratches on Mingguo's arm. This immediately reminded investigators of the autopsy report. According to the forensics file, Ruiqin had clear signs of external force around her neck, along with a broken fingernail, suggesting she may have scratched the attacker while fighting back. When asked about the scratches, Mingguo didn't appear surprised. He calmly explained that they were caused by falling hardware while he was repairing the AC unit in Ruiqin's shop. While the explanation sounded plausible, it failed to dispel the growing doubts. What raised further eyebrows was Mingguo's peculiar interest in legal details. He repeatedly asked about sentencing guidelines for murder, conditions for reduced penalties, and how the trial process worked. At first, these questions seemed unrelated to the core of the investigation, but over time, they created a subtle contradiction with his constant declarations of innocence, enough to make the investigators feel unsettled. Suspicion was mounting, but without definitive proof, they were still stuck. From that sense of deadlock, a deeper realization emerged. The man sitting across from them wasn't just a suspect. He might be a formidable adversary with a solid grasp of how to resist interrogation. What started as a standard inquiry was quickly turning into a psychological and intellectual showdown. After hours of continuous interrogation, an unexpected breakthrough came in the early morning. Mingguo, having gone more than 10 hours without food or water, began to show signs of exhaustion and lost the composed demeanor he had maintained until then. Noticing his deteriorating condition, the lead investigator expressed sympathy and asked a colleague to buy breakfast, specifically requesting something warm and comforting. When the food arrived, Mingguo began eating quickly, his head lowered. Suddenly, tears began rolling down his cheeks. It was at that moment that the calm exterior finally cracked. Mingguo confessed that 1 week before the murder, on October 19th, he visited Ruiqin's shop for the first time for a haircut and massage. The total cost was $70. After the massage, when he went to use the restroom, Ruiqin allegedly went through his wallet, discovered his certificate for mild intellectual disability, and mocked him, saying he wasn't a normal person. This deeply upset him. Still, 3 days later, he returned, drawn back by her beauty and massage skills. But to his surprise, Ruiqin again went through his wallet, found the disability certificate, and this time reacted with visible disgust. She reportedly exclaimed that she couldn't understand why he always carried it with him. At this point in the story, Mingguo became visibly agitated. He claimed that Ruiqin repeatedly scolded and insulted him, pushing him into a state of uncontrollable rage. He lunged at her and began choking her. During the struggle, Ruiqin scratched him, leaving 2 deep gashes on his arm. Coincidentally or not, this detail perfectly matched injuries police had previously observed. Mingguo went on to say that, in the heat of the moment, he noticed a hammer lying in the restroom. He picked it up and struck Ruiqin in the head more than 20 times with the pointed end. Once the rage subsided, Mingguo began cleaning the scene. He intentionally removed the window-mounted air conditioner to make it appear as if a burglary had occurred. As for the reason he took Ruiqin's phone and laptop, he claimed she often used them for video calls, and he feared the murder might have been recorded. So he threw away the phone and her watch, and only took the laptops back home. Initially, when police heard this account of the motive, they could understand how someone with a long-standing intellectual disability might react violently after enduring repeated humiliation. The idea of emotional trauma building over time until it erupted into violence was not far-fetched. However, as they began verifying his story, inconsistencies emerged. Ruiqin was known in the neighborhood as a polite and soft-spoken woman. She had run her barbershop for many years and was consistently described as kind and professional, completely at odds with the insensitive, mocking image Mingguo had painted. Moreover, the crime scene told a very different story. Evidence showed that the killer had cleaned the scene meticulously, removing the air conditioner to stage a fake burglary, wiping away traces, and carefully avoiding security cameras. These deliberate, methodical actions didn't match the behavior of someone who simply lost control in a moment of anger. Not long afterward, local media revealed that Mingo had actually known Ruiqin for 2 years, not just 1 week, as he had told police. Financial records showed that during that time, Mingo had spent a total of $6,900 at Ruiqin's shop. This information came to light shortly before the start of the first trial. After a thorough review, the court considered several key factors: Mingguo's mental health condition, his lack of any prior criminal record, and his willingness to cooperate with the investigation. Based on this, the panel sentenced him to 13 years and 5 months in prison. In 2015, the Supreme Court issued its final decision, rejecting the appeal and upholding the original sentence, officially closing the book on a case that had left many questions unanswered. The case may have ended with a prison sentence, but the real answers were never fully captured in court records. Behind Ruiqin Yu's death was a chain of poor decisions, unresolved tension, and a deep lack of understanding between two people from vastly different worlds. A free-spirited woman trying to survive in a foreign land. A disadvantaged man burdened by emotions he was never taught to name. They met in a small barbershop, but in the end, their story ended in blood and tears. What do you think about this case? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit like and subscribe so you won't miss our next investigation.